rap fans just know about his music. But today, we're breaking down the crazy stories that made other rappers terrified of him. Let's get right into it. Boosie came up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Like a lot of dudes who eventually hop in the booth, Boosie wanted to be a basketball player first. He played sports and tried to stay out of the streets, but that all changed when his father was murdered. When he was 14, Boosie lost his dad and ended up moving in with his grandma. That's when he jumped off the porch and ended up getting kicked out of school. By that point, he was in the streets full-time and wasn't thinking about a basketball career anymore. But Boosie had other dreams too. He started rapping after his cousin Young D linked him up with a dude named CeeLo. CeeLo started showing Boosie how to move in the rap game, and later, they were in a group together called Concentration Camp. Boosie had a lot of skill from the jump, and at 17, he picked up a lot of buzz when he dropped his debut album, Youngest of the Camp. Working with CeeLo in the Concentration Camp was great for Boosie, but he was always too good to just be another dude in the rap crew. Youngest of the Camp put him on the map and turned a lot of heads in the industry, and the project was so good that Pimp C reached out and ended up signing Boosie to his Trill Entertainment label. Boosie spent the next few years going on a crazy run. He dropped project after project and was building a bigger audience with every release. And in 2005, he signed his first major label deal with Warner Records. Boosie made it out of the streets and into the rap game. He'd been grinding it out for years, and all the hard work paid off when he got his major label deal. But right when it looked like Boosie was gonna break into the mainstream, he almost lost it all. In October 2008, Boosie was booked on drug and gun charges after the cops in Baton Rouge found weed and a pistol in his whip. He was facing 20 years for the weed and another 5 for the gun. But Boosie caught a break and was able to plead guilty to a third-degree weed charge instead. But in the time between Boosie's plea and his sentencing, the court put him on house arrest. What made the situation even more complicated is that Boosie already had shows booked at the same time. He had been sued for missing shows before and didn't want his family to go broke while he was in prison. So Boosie broke his house arrest to go perform. Boosie told Revolt, "I had to go do these shows these last 2 days to feed my family." At first, the judge gave him a 10-year sentence with 8 of them suspended. That meant Boosie would probably only spend a year in prison if it didn't cause any issues on the inside. But then, the judge found out Boosie violated his house arrest. After the judge found out about the concerts, he decided to double Boosie's sentence. At that point, he was still only facing a couple years in prison. But in 2010, Boosie caught a charge that almost cost him his life. In June 2010, Boosie was charged with first-degree murder for the death of a dude named Terry Boyd. Boyd is actually the brother of Boosie's baby mama. In October 2009, he was sitting in his homie Ben Hawkins' house when someone started letting off shots from outside the window. Boyd had only been out of prison for a month after serving 5 years, and he had been crashing the Hawkins spot until he can get back on his feet. At first, nobody knew why Boyd was targeted, but prosecutors believed that Boosie was involved. According to them, Boosie paid a 17-year-old named Marlo Mike $2,800 to take Boyd out. Boosie was facing a death penalty if he was convicted, so he was put on death row at Angola Penitentiary until the trial was over. And even though Boosie hadn't been convicted of murder and was only serving time for simple weed and gun charges, they treated him like a known killer and had him on lockdown for 23 hours a day. Marlo, Mike, and Boosie were tight, and Marlo even lived with him for a while. Even though he was only 17, Marlo already had a reputation in the streets for being a shooter. He had spent a lot of time in juvie for violent charges like robbery and battery. But Marlo wasn't just another kid who became a victim of his surroundings. Boosie told DJ Vlad that Marlo had already caught 9 bodies by the time he was 15 years old. Marlo told his mom that he was hearing voices in his head and she tried to help him. But Marlo wouldn't go to the doctor because he didn't want to end up in a mental institution. After the cops booked him on Terry Boyd's murder, Marlo flipped on Boosie and said he killed Boyd because Boosie wanted him to. And 2 weeks after he shot Boyd, Marlo got a tattoo that said, "Yo Boosie, who's next?" The prosecution said Boosie paid for the hit because Boyd sent a letter that said he was gonna jack and slap Boosie. But nobody's ever seen the letter and it wasn't submitted into evidence. There were a couple of pieces of evidence that pointed to Boosie being involved, but his legal team clapped back with a completely different story. According to them, Boosie had acted like a father figure to Marlo and had nothing to do with him killing Boyd. They said that 2 dudes, and Michael Judson and Adrian Pittman, were the ones who told Marlo to kill Terry Boyd. Boyd and Judson already had beef over some money, but Judson was shot to death before he could face trial. What really saved Boosie was when Marlo testified in court that the confession he made was a lie and that he only said it because the cops threatened to arrest his mom and stepdad if he didn't work with them. According to Boosie, Marlo made the original statement to protect him. Someone they both knew had just died, and Marlo wanted Boosie to stay behind bars so he wouldn't crash out and get himself into more trouble. Even Boyd's sister Tori took the stand and said Boosie and him didn't have any problems. The prosecution was counting on Marlo's story to get a conviction. His story was the biggest piece of evidence against Boosie, so when he took it all back, the prosecution didn't have much of a case to make. But murder wasn't the only charge Boosie was facing. While he was locked up, Boosie got hit with new charges for allegedly trying to smuggle drugs into prison. Boosie was a known codeine addict at the time, so when a police informant offered him codeine in exchange for helping him smuggle drugs inside, Boosie jumped on the opportunity and ended up catching more charges. He pleaded guilty to the drug charges and got hit with an 8-year sentence. But then, Boosie caught a major break and he was found not guilty in a Terry Boyd murder trial. Then his legal team scored another win for him by proving that the drug charges were all a setup, and Boosie was finally released in 2014 after spending years fighting for his life behind bars. Boosie wasn't convicted, but spending time on death row for a murder trial still added to his reputation as a rapper he definitely shouldn't cross. Plus, a lot of people weren't convinced he didn't have Terry Boyd taken out, and eventually, Boosie's baby mama Tori came out and said,
I still had to deal with that. That was mixed emotions. I couldn't explain that to my daughter at the time. She was 5. You know, your uncle got killed by your dad.
Nobody knows for sure what went down, but even the rumor that Boosie had his own baby mama's brother killed made a lot of rappers scared of him. And Boyd isn't the only dude Boosie allegedly paid Marlo to take out. During his trial, Marlo admitted to killing another rapper named Chris Jackson. Jackson and Boosie were beefing, and in 2009, Jackson was shot in the head and killed. Boosie wasn't booked for the murder, but an informant told the FBI that Boosie had put 30 racks on his head. The cops didn't have enough evidence to charge Boosie, but Marlo went down for all the murders and got hit with a life sentence. Boosie avoided the police for almost a decade after beating the murder and drug cases, but last year, he almost went straight back to prison. In July 2022, he was pulled over for an obstructed license plate, and Boosie lost it and the cops cuffed him. He started yelling and threatened to spit on them. Then, Boosie told the cops to take their badges off so they could fight. Luckily, the cops let him go with just a citation for weed, but a month later, Boosie was pulled over again for speeding. While the cops had him cuffed, Boosie started spitting bars from his track Set It Off and f***ed the police. Even though he spent time on death row, Boosie made it clear to everyone that the police didn't scare him at all. Allegedly being involved with hits isn't the only reason other rappers are afraid of Boosie. He survived a wild life and never let anything slow him down. He fought through cancer, lives with diabetes, went to death row, and survived getting shot in the leg, and Boosie never stopped dropping music for his fans. He has 10 solo albums, 7 collab albums with other artists, plus over 40 mixtapes. And when it comes to Southern hip-hop, Boosie is a certified living legend. Other rappers know how hard Boosie had to work to get to where he is today, and a ton of them say he's one of the greatest ever. Back in 2020, Black Youngster hopped on social media and wrote, "Boosie the first and only made me cry. Believe it or not, this is the only